10 higher vision score than their opponents. They've only been at a goal deficit in one game past 5 minutes into the game. This is a team that dominates in every portion of the game. Early, mid, late. Objectives, CSing, individual 1v1s, ganking. They are a team that is dominant, and it shows in their drafts that they are that confident. And speaking of drafts, we're hopping into it, Mac Dewey.
Yeah, immediately Glaive Black checked the tape, looked at last week's matches, and Trapzoid is not going to be getting his hands anywhere near that Echo pick, as it is the first ban to come through. And it's so tricky for Glacial Rising Eagles, because how do you approach a team that is just so flexible in the draft and ban phase?
It's really difficult, and that has been one of the points of Glacial that has caused them to struggle a little bit. Their drafts have been a little bit wonky. They've given up quite a few power picks, whether it's Jin in the bottom lane, Rumble in that mid lane, or even Renekton's Orange Shens in the top lane. They have sacrificed some of these power picks in their drafts, and it has cost them some of these matchups, in my personal opinion. So we'll see what they can do, right? Glacial's goal here is to see, hey, can we get a draft that favors us, favors our playstyle, maybe helps us get an early advantage, and then we can make Glaive bleed. And if we can make Glaive bleed a little bit, if we can show some signs of weakness, maybe we can exploit that and pull out a win or even two. So we will have to see if they're able to do that. But Glaive comes in with a Hecarim pick on the B1, and I love that a lot because it is such a strong character in the jungle right now.
Yeah, I do want to point out Glacial able to ban away the Galio, and this is kind of where I was personally thinking about where Glacial can maybe try to have a more comfortable draft if they're able to take away some of the flexibility that Glaive Black often draft for themselves, because just in last week's match, that Galio not only was in the mid lane valley, but also made its way down to the bot lane.
Yeah, support Galio very strong still. It was really kind of meta for like a week or so, and then it kind of fell out of the support role and back into the mid lane. But Galio, incredibly strong. I think that's a smart ban. We are going to see Caitlyn Morgana, so another one of those mid laners that can be flexed down to that support role. I doubt we'll see Morgana going towards that mid lane position, but she definitely could. But to your point, Mac Dewey, flexibility. Glaive, we can say, hey, you're taking flexibility off the table, but the Tom Kench is still there, man. The Tom Kench is still available to go support or top lane. It could go anywhere still, you know? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see how Kiba is able to perform on the Ezreal. A lot of times we see in this Caitlyn Morgana matchup, right? The goal for this lane for Glacial Rising Eagles is to get those turret plates and to really macro the early game super well. And against Glaive Black, that's going to be pretty difficult, as Seraphine's in pro draft. I don't know if the new patch is live. I don't think that's an actual
I don't know if that
option.
one's allowed just yet. Glacial question mark? Yeah, no, I don't think Seraphine is allowed, and it's probably just a cheeky hover. It will be the Dr. Mundo picked up, which is something we don't normally see. So I'm actually super excited about that, because that can be jungle, that can be topside, and it's actually a pretty strong pickup as far as a tank. We just don't see it that often in competitive play. But to go back to your point quickly, Mac Dewey, about the Ezreal, you're absolutely right about what Caitlyn Morgana wants to do. They want to find angles to get picks off and pressure the enemy laners so that they can get towards the tower, they can knock down plates, and they can scale Caitlyn's gold out of control very early on. Which is why I'm a little bit concerned about the Ezreal, right? Doesn't have as strong of wave clears maybe you'd like to see. Ashe, again, a very popular pick into Caitlyn, still very powerful, especially given, you know, Caitlyn got nerfed quite a bit. Samira was also still on the table as well if you wanted to go a super strong power pick in this bottom lane. Instead, they go for some safety. Thresh Ezreal, very safe. They're saying, we're not really worried about your bottom lane. We know you like to play through mid lane. We know you like to play through top lane Glacial, so you have to come fight us there. And with the Mundo locked in, if that's going top, that means you're going to be looking at a strong side mid lane for Glacial, and they have to find something that really gives them an advantage, especially with Echo, Yasuo, and Zed off the board.
Yeah, it is important to note, I think, that with the Dr. Mundo being locked in for the top lane, it actually is not going to be a Dr. Mundo in the top lane. I guess I'll just get off the analyst desk. But the Aatrox pick was massive for Glacial last week, and it was actually the top laner that got them a win against Divine Ascension.
Yeah, it definitely can pull wins, and Aatrox can be incredibly strong. But right now, I've got some concerns, Mac Dewey. Glacial Esports, their draft, looking at it lane by lane, you're like, okay, we could have some strong sides, especially, Malphite into Aatrox. Aatrox likes characters coming into him, but so does Mundo, Caitlyn, and Morgana, right? This isn't a team that's going to be really able to run at you and stop you doing that sort of thing. So my question is, how do you get onto Ezreal, right? If Hecarim CCs you away, if you're trying to run into Glaive and Malphite hits you with the unstoppable onslaught, how do you get into them? How does Aatrox find value? How does Mundo find value? And beyond that, how does Mundo find value in the jungle matchup if Hecarim is able to just free farm? Mundo is not an invading jungler. This is a Hecarim that should be able to hit 6, should be able to get ganks off and get to Trinity Force fairly uncontested early on. So I've got a couple concerns about Glacial, but this comp can still work out. They can play through Caitlyn, they can play the game slow, find the value they need, and they can potentially get wins, but that Veigar is a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie.
It is going to be going into the Cassiopeia. Very interesting from Glacial. Maybe going to be able to catch Glaive Black catch them off guard in this first match. It's going to be interesting. They do have a Glaive. I think if they make it out of the early game, right, they survive the Caitlyn Morgana, they get to like the 15-minute mark, not too far behind at all, and they're going to be able to kind of run around the map and execute team fights how they want. You were talking about this a little bit as well. They've got the Malphite, they've got the Hecarim engage. Glacial, not a lot of pick potential. I think they're going to really be relying on this Aatrox and their subs coming in. Ender 524, a sub in the top lane for Glacial, as well as Solar Zen in the support role, sub coming in as well. Maybe this could be the turnaround. The subs work out in their favor. But Ender's going to be having to make a lot of solid teleport flanks, I think, or just some regular good old-fashioned positioning flanks around these big objectives to make the team fights go a little bit more in favor of Glacial.
And this is a game where both of these teams have compositions that after they get out of that early to mid game, they're going to want to team fight. And if Glaive gets set up, right, if they are the first one to say a dragon fight or a baron fight and they get their objective control, they get their vision control down, Glacial has a rough time coming into them, like we've already mentioned, and Glaive is going to have a pretty free time zoning them off with Veigar Cage, Malphite ult threatening, Ezreal has tons of poke, Hecarim, the flanks to try and shut down Caitlyn Morgana. It's going to be very difficult for Glacial to get to these objectives, and we know from Glaive statistics from their previous games, if they get a lead, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile and a half. They will take every objective off the table from you. They will give you nothing. You will have bare bones in your own jungle, and you will fall in under 25 minutes. And that's a worry I have for Glacial Esports. Glacial Esports, definitely an underdog in this tale. They could make something happen here. It's definitely possible, especially like you said, if that Aatrox has a monster performance, one of these subs, then we are looking at hopefully a really exciting and hype game, which you're lucky you get to cast it because I'm a little bit jealous of you on that one. But I want to see it. Like, I want to see Glacial do something. I want to see underdog tails because Glaive has yet to show a weakness, and I kind of want to see some weakness here. And can Glacial really be the one to push them to that point? We don't know, and we'll see. But here's hoping. Fingers crossed.
And it's got to start in this bot lane. The Caitlyn Morgana's got to be the catalyst in which you get through the early game, you survive these lanes that Glaive Black have been able to dominate in through the first 3 games of this season. They're sitting at 3-0, and you've mentioned it with their average win time, 24 minutes. Haven't really dropped a game. I think it's all just been 2-0s for Glaive Black so far. And like you were mentioning, they haven't shown any weakness, and it's going to be difficult, I think, for this bot lane to try to push for an advantage because they're going to be pushed up so much, putting themselves in a vulnerable position. Are they going to get caught out?
Yeah, and they also don't have any real jungle or mid lane support. Cassiopeia is one of those scaling mid laners that needs to hit that first item to really come online and be useful. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Tier is not a power spike, and that is the route Cassiopeia will be going early into the game. And on the other side of things, right, if Mundo is not really going to be great pre-6 for counter ganking or even finding early ganks to provide pressure, Hecarim, on the other hand, can be in those fights, can make those plays happen, especially if he takes Ghost. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's very risky if you're the Caitlyn Morgana to step up and try to greed for those plates. Do you maybe just play, hey, CS, see if we can find a pick, maybe get some objective control, and sit back and let us scale? Or do you try and greed for those plays? And I want to see Glacial Rising Phoenix take some of those risks and greed for those plates, because I think if they don't take risks, this team isn't going to improve. They're not going to get better. They need to play around objectives. They need to play around a strong side of the map, and they need to push themselves and limit tests, because if they don't, they're just going to stagnate in this league.
And it's interesting you bring up that point because from last week's game, Glaive Black are on a completely new set of 5 champions for this matchup against Glacial. They didn't play. This isn't a comfort zone, or at least based off of last week's matches. So they really could be exploring this side of their gameplay, of their game style, mixing things up. And I'll be looking. Issei on the Thresh has got to be landing those death sentences. It's going to be really difficult, though, to do that into the Morgana. And I'm kind of surprised we didn't see the Samira get locked in, because it was Caitlyn Morgana picked up in the first round for the red side, right? It was Caitlyn Morgana instant lock in. And this is Glaive's preference going into the lane, even though Samira arguably could have been better.
Yeah, it definitely could have, but I think Glaive is saying, hey, we've got 2-0s consistently. We're at the top. We don't really necessarily see Glacial as one of those big challengers. Oh, let's try and play a different style for us, right? Let's try and push ourselves to play more weak side bot, maybe more scaling picks, and win that way. And I think it's a good thing, right? You want to try and have different play styles, and if that's what Glaive is doing, we'll see if it works out for them. Like you said, completely new champions. Maybe they'll show some weakness here, have some things to shore up, because dominating a league, you don't feel like you're improving, and I like that Glaive is challenging themselves a little bit.
We are going to go to a quick break as we load onto the Rift. I will see you guys there, Valley. We will be kicking it back to the analyst desk as soon as the match finishes up. We'll catch you guys on the Rift in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are once again on the Rift with the mid-league matchup between Glaive Black on the blue side and Glacial Rising Phoenix on the red. I am the Doctor, being joined by none other than Mac Dewey themselves, the crossover from the analyst desk. You've heard them talk about this so far, but now it's time to deep dive into the actual matchup. The champions are picked. It's all up to the players now.
Yeah, and for the side of Glacial Rising Eagles, all eyes are going to be on Trapzoid's Cassiopeia. Unfortunately, it is going into the Viger, and I think it might actually be pretty tricky for Trapzoid to recreate his 1605 Echo performance from last week, but that's what it's going to take for Glacial Rising Eagles to try to beat down Glaive Black, who are sitting very comfortably, in my mind, at the top of the standings for the mid-league.
Yeah, I mean, Glacial Rising Phoenix has a pretty complicated composition to make work, right? Like the Cassiopeia involves a lot. The Mundo can, in the early game, require a lot of focus. Aatrox, I don't know how I feel about Aatrox because this is the second night in a row I've seen it played, and I just can't help but think there's better picks, even though the one I saw yesterday worked out very well. Although...
Exactly. Look at already this Thresh Issei. Oh my goodness.
Play in. There's no cage, so Kakar is just gonna get some damage down. But there's no teleport for Trapezoid. Trapezoid is effectively Trapezoid's dead.
The barrier was used. Oh my gosh.
Barrier being. Oh boy, that's.
Glaive did their homework going into this one, Doc. They read the report. They know where the carry's going to be, and immediately they try to shut down Trapzoid. Glacial Rising Phoenix, excuse me, my apologies for misspeaking there. And right now, off to a rough start there. Glaive Black getting an advantage immediately in the mid lane. Issei, though, going to have to back off as Solar Zen also not too. Gonna, kind of unfortunate, but... Issei still has to play it safe.
Yeah, Issei gonna be able to just walk forward with that level 2 flay into hook the Ignite First Blood coming through onto Kiba, and that Ezreal is kind of bonkers as a champion.
And this isn't how the script's supposed to go. We think about Caitlyn Morgana lanes, and they're supposed to be dominating, you know, using that Black Shield to make sure that no one is in trouble of getting taken down from the death sentence. But Kiba and Issei just working so well together, able to pick up that really natural kill. And this is where we were talking about it on the analyst desk. All eyes were going to be on this bot lane to act as a catalyst. Yes, you do have Trapzoid as the stud mid laner, but simply based on how the Caitlyn Morgana needs to get ahead. And Mozo's in the chat. Oh my god. Sorry, I just love Mozo so much. He's everywhere I am, and he's my biggest simp, and I appreciate it so much. But nevertheless, this Caitlyn Morgana is supposed to be getting turret plates early on and then moving around the map to pick up early Rift Heralds. And suddenly they're going to be playing from behind, Doc.
Yeah, and this is a very problematic playing from behind composition, right? Like you guys talked about on the desk, like Cassiopeia needs time to scale, Mundo needs time to scale, Caitlyn needs time to scale. As we do see a gank happening on the top side, the flash away is not enough for Ender, who will be going down to Demon this time, and that bot lane is action packed. Kiba picking up a second kill, will be traded back onto Nocturnal, but will they be able to go for the double? Trap gets down, Charizard's very low, flash forward from Kiba, double kill, triple kills on the menu. He is writing names in his notebook, but it is going to be survival for Nocturnal.
That's insane! What is this Ezreal Thresh synergy? Wow! What a play there. We take a look at the replay, and this isn't how it's supposed to go for Glacial. They've got the Mundo trying to come into the bot lane. We look at this replay, not able to take a look at the items. I don't think Chilling Smite was available, and Solar Zen just so squishy, gets bursted down, and suddenly it's a 2v2. The Thresh does get taken down there, but very critically, the Arcane Shift comes out, getting away from the trap, and there's just not enough setup for this Caitlyn to do the insane burst damage that we're used to it.
Yeah, it's something that EU was talking about. I don't remember if it was on the World's broadcast on Sunday or if it was on the World's Foria podcast with Dracos and Frost. They were talking about Ezreal specifically and how when everything works for this champion, Rockstar, best marksman in the game almost, and just completely shutters out, different basically everything. But when you play it poorly, obviously it's the exact opposite. It's the most useless marksman in the game. And right now we have a 3-0 Ezreal at 5.5 minutes with a halfway completed call, a Tear of the Goddess that's stacking up, and a pickaxe.
And this is exactly where Kiba wanted to be and exactly where Glacial didn't want to be, as Kakari getting low.
Kakari getting out safely. Not quite enough crowd control coming through just yet.
Yeah.
Those cools will be in the hand, but the river's been cut off. They're on this dragon. We are seeing Dibble taken pretty low, but he's Malphite, right? Like, why does he doesn't care. He's just there to press R every, 70 seconds or so.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see a quick little cheeky Malphite R come out now. We're not dealing with the old Aatrox with that inspired, that victorious skin. There's no revive shenanigans coming out. And yes, Ender was decided to go for the Doran Shield start, but don't underestimate Malphite's damage. Dibble going the Arcane Comet, wanting to be a little aggressive, is going to continue to be able to poke down Ender, who will be feeling a little bit more healthy with some of the healing coming from the Aatrox ultimate. But so far, this game's kind of going for how we would expect for Glaive Black, just dominating early in a decisive fashion. And right now, I was talking about, I wanted to see plays being made from Issei's Thresh, and from the start of this game, it's been very impactful.
Yeah, and Thresh is that, again, champion that doesn't really have low points, I guess I'll call it, because the champion is always good as Dibble is able to get out with the unstoppable force. We do see Demon on a little bit of a roam up top, not quite going to be able to find anything though, but I think that's the correct decision from Dibble, right? Like, you don't want to overcommit and trade 1-for-1 in a matchup that you're already not having the best time.
Exactly. So he's just going to be chilling, able to recall, does have teleport available. That's another death sentence.
Big hook going to connect onto Solar Zen, who's just annihilated from the map. That damage from the Ezreal so ahead of the curve right now, and there is nothing they can do about it.
4-0-0, and Valley was talking a little bit about it on the analyst desk. Ender gonna be able to... Demon!
Ender might... if not for the charge out of danger, that very well could have been Ender picking up and being just donated a kill.
There's the Aatrox was really wanting that one, and Glacial may be able to get a footing in that game if the Hecarim's able to get taken down, but there's not a lot of objectives available. Demon's already on the Rift Herald with complete topside pressure for the side of Glaive. They know the Mundo's on the bottom side of the map after getting spotted out there. And Valley mentioned this as well. Valley bringing up a lot of great points. Kudos to her for absolutely nailing the analyst desk. On blue side, Glaive Black haven't lost a Rift Herald, Doc.
Yeah, and it's a very good stat to have. It gives you a lot of free gold, being able to take down different towers and stuff. And one thing that's actually super important about that almost donated kill from Demon is it actually canceled the back, and Ender has not had an opportunity to get another one in. So still sitting on just Longsword Doran's no pots into the Corrupting Pot bombing Glacial that we see on the Malphite, as we do see a gank attemption in the bot side. Charizard, though, forced to clear the ward, and I think that should do it, although we do see a gank at the top side. Ender, again, no back timing, can't heal up. Charizard gonna be able to get out for now until the death sentence seals their fate. Kakari picking up the first kill for themselves.
Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, things maybe going Glacial's way. Solar Zen's kind of low here, though. Oh, Kiba!
Kiba is an absolute madman. Everything going exactly to Kakaku, and translator's note, that does mean plan.
Luckily, though, Trapzoid for Glacial able to get a kill is down a little bit on CS compared to Kakari, but Trapzoid, this is going to be the stud for Glacial to try to come through. Talking about this before, is going to be going for the Archangels option. Definitely need that on the Casio. It just means, though, that we're not going to see an insanely high impact, the no Casio 1v5s just yet. Doc, we're gonna be waiting until later in the game until Trap fully comes online, but looking overall at the map, 10 minutes in, and it's the Ezreal Thresh that's been able to pick up 3 turret plates, and Issa is going to be going on the map, trying to get some vision control, maybe taking a visit to this mid lane. Rift Herald still hasn't been used. We'll be looking for Demon to pop Shelly out onto the Rift. Right around when this dragon is going to be spawning to maybe look for some pressure.
Yeah, it is very crucial timing in that, as we do see Trapezoid being forced to flash out of danger, will survive. And I wanted to note that we're seeing about a 3.5k gold lead in favor of Glaive Black. And I want to note that like 2.5 of that amount is just on Kiba advantage. As Kiba's going in 1v2, gonna get exhausted up, still able to pick up a kill though, and is just doing damage, is finally shut down on the backside, as we do see this fight happening in the mid lane. Charizard's getting puttered out as Kakari picks up yet another kill onto the Glacial Rising Phoenix squad. And top side, I think it's a noodle fight. I don't think anybody's actually going to win here, but it should be first brick going down in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think Ender's going to have to recall here. Did decide to use the World Ender to try to pick up a kill. Dibble's going to be just fine. Didn't even have to use his ultimate, as Kiba may be limit testing now at this point against Glacial Rising Phoenix. Is he strong enough to take on the bot lane 1v2? The answer, luckily for the competitive integrity of the mid league, is a resounding no, not just yet. Only 6-1-1 on the Ezreal to start us off here, but very importantly, Glaive being able to pick up the kills and the CS, and as we know for this team, they're able to just dominate on whichever side of the map they want to, and consistently they've been able to dominate in all sides of the map, both top and bottom, utilizing that Rift Herald to knock down the bottom lane turret. And Solar Zen, you're all alone. This poor Morgana is gonna just have to give over more gold to Kiba's Ezreal. Already the Man Immune completed. Luckily, Nocturnal with the shutdown gold 2-0-0 on the Caitlyn is able to pick up an Infinity Edge. So maybe Glacial do have an avenue into this game. It's going to be difficult, though. They're going to have to be looking for picks with this Caitlyn, with this Morgana. Maybe onto the Ezreal, maybe onto the Thresh, but with tools like Arcane Shift and Thresh's Lantern, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, we do see Trapezoid moving into the top side, trying to get some gank. Charizard's there as well. It seems to be a very tight 3v3 skirmish. Here comes the Hecarim, going to get stunned up. 2-man unstoppable force, though, as Trapezoid's so very low. Is going to give the double kill over to Kakari. Triple kill on the menu. There it is, secured for the little mean man there. And it is going to be 5-0-2 on the Glaive Black mid laner.
Wow, what a play there. And it's just the damage coming through. We're going to take a look at this replay here, Doc, and the Petrifying Gaze is able to land and stop the engage, but it's just not enough to stop the raw damage coming through from the Vigor. Landing a 2-man W as Nocturnal caught out.
Is going to be going down here eventually. The Mystic shot from downtown securing that, and we're seeing just how accelerated the carries of Black right now. We're seeing, you know, the dark matter explosions from the Vigar. These Mystic shots are just absolutely decimating on the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix. And, you know, we're seeing just constant disrespect coming out from Issei, just not giving any kind of, you know, inch or mile. And they're even forcing smites out of Charizard, which is not ideal.
The Mystic Shot's a skill shot, right? It's not a point and click, and yet Kiba's been just landing them so consistently. And right now, before Baron, Doc, we're only 15 minutes into this game, and it's an 8,000 gold lead for Glaive Black. And again, we were talking about this a little bit. This is a composition they didn't run last week. and yet they're still able to make it work so well. Oh, Ender, not where you want to be, stuck in the cage.
Dark Matter comes down and just so much damage out of that Primordial Burst. And I want to point out, Ezreal is currently at 654 stacks out of 750. And the True Shot Barrage not quite going to connect. But we're going to have like a 16 and a half, 17 minute Metamune. So that's pretty scary. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
It's so scary, and some casters, they're a little worried about boots of mobility on supports, because it's like, if you aren't able to utilize, if you aren't really able to get out onto the map and make plays, then it's kind of a waste of money, right? You're just slowed during combat, it's not all that useful. But Issei able to come up to the top lane.
Charizard gonna be
the flay!
food for fodder. Flay into the cage, into the death sentence. Kakari, though, not having any cooldowns available, not able to secure that kill yet. Here comes the Hecarim, charging into the backside, getting the two-man fear. Finally able to extinguish the Charizard flame, and it is death sentence connecting time after time. Mid-tier 2 goes down as well.
And domination so far from Glaive Black. That's been the narrative, and they've been able to write another chapter in that book. 10,000 gold up ahead right now at the 16.5 minute mark. Demon, not a bad Trinity Force completion time. Already just trying to pick up the Death Stance. Not going to worry about going for that Cinder Hulk. Kakari very online, going to be able to facilitate a lot of picks, especially for Issei's Thresh, right? You throw the Hextech Hose, you throw the Twin Shadows up with the Glacial Augment, makes for a very easy hook to continue growing this lead for the side of Glaive Black. And Trapzoid on the Cassiopeia, Nocturnal on the Caitlyn. Right now, they haven't been getting taken down a lot, but they also just haven't been able to develop any sort of advantage, and the rest of the team is getting taken down. And even though they're sitting at 2-1 and 1-2, the lead, look at the other side of the rift, Doc. You got a 6-0-3 Viger, and Kiba already with that 17-minute completion of the Mirror Mana with a Trinity Force. I mean, we talk about the ideal time for Ezreal to get these power spikes is around the 3rd Drake, so it's all going according to plan for Glaive Black.
I think this is the accelerated version of the plan, as we do see Charizard walking into danger once again. No flash available this time. Black Shield coming out, flayed back into danger. Will be not taken out by the Primordial Burst just yet. It is going to be the damage flay from the flesh. No, that was weird. We do see the cage connecting onto Solar Zen as well, force the flash away, but I don't know if it will be enough. The flay once again from Issei coming up clutch, but Solar will make it out alive. For now, Kiba showing up though, says, nope, not today. Mystic Shot goes wide, but it is overall a 2-for-1 in favor of Glaive Black. And they get an inhibitor.
Are they going to be able to pick up this inhibitor? Kiba may not want to limit test here against Charizard and Trapzoid. Gonna back off there. 8-1-1 on this Ezreal. And it's not even, we were kind of oh goodness, we might get another fight. The Twin Shadows are coming in. Oh, teleport, meanwhile, Nocturnal, where are you going?
Teleport as well. Nocturnal's stuck in the river. It is going to be Kakari going godlike with that Primordial Burst. Not much left to be done here. Here comes the rest of the fight. Hook is going to connect. Charizard is trying to zone away the enemy support, but that's not the one he needs to be worried about. It's Kiba doing all the damage. It is going to connect on to Kiba, but there's simply not enough in the tank. Here comes the Unstoppable Force. Going to take out Trapezoid in the mid lane, and the rest of the team fight is coming out through. Here comes the Glorious Charge onto the world-ending Ender. He is still not verified, by the way, and Demon just looking to fake out Solar Zen. Herald should be dancing on this Nexus. It is going to be coming through. Kiba trying to get everything done. Will stay alive for now. It is going to be enough. That Herald is gonna be dancing, like I said, and this should be game 1 going over to Glaive Black.
And I'm kind of speechless after this one, Doc. Wow. You know, this is Glaive Black's first time being on stream for this split of the mid-league. And we've heard stories, right? Glaive Black, a veteran here at XLNC Esports for performing. And I haven't been able to get to visualize it, get to experience it until now. And boy, am I scared for the rest of the mid league. 19 minutes, 51 seconds, Doc. That's all it took. They somehow they closed out the game, surpassing their average win time, which, as Valley mentioned, was 24 minutes. They somehow beat that. How?
So I do want to quickly point out that this is still slower than G2 losing to Damwon at the World Championship. So I definitely don't want Glacial Rising Phoenix to be discouraged because they're still putting up more of an effort than G2 did.
And Glacial gonna have to go back to the drawing board here. It's just gonna be so tough to combat this Glaive team. Going into this match, Doc, we obviously knew it was going to be an underdog story for Glacial Rising. It's looking like it's kind of an Everest task ahead of them to try to find an advantage. But I do want to point out, looking at last week's games, Glacial Rising, when they lose hard. They commit to it. But when they win, they're also able to win hard.
Yeah, I mean, they need to get something more solid in the draft. I think that going the scaling option only really works when you're the better team, right? Like something we've seen professionally for years now, right? Like we had back in like seasons 3, 4, 5, it was the Korean style of gameplay where it was these teams playing absolutely perfect, scaling compositions until one final team fight decides the game, and whichever team was inherently better won. And you know, we saw North America try and emulate that, much to the dismay of TSM fans like myself, where we're trying to play this perfect style of League of Legends and we dominate, you know, regionally, and then we go to Worlds and we get 06th or whatever it is we went this year. I can't even remember because I blocked it out of my memory. But it's something you need to be more cognizant of, and I feel like if there is potentially a skill gap, you need